Number 10. Broiler Baby. FNAF AR mobile game special delivery has recently given us a new look for Circus Baby with her Broiler Baby skin. This skin is a less colorful version of the character who appears to be made out of metal. Metal hot enough to withstand melting from the furnace in her chest plate. Through the cracks between her face plates, you can also see her fiery insides, which presumably help to power her up. I like to think this version of Circus Baby is steam powered. Instead of holding her microphone, she holds a menacing looking coal shovel. Number 9. Wait. Despite the fact that we call her Circus Baby, this animatronic is actually massive in terms of her size. According to schematics from sister location, Circus Baby is over 7 feet tall and weighs over 250 kilograms. That's over 500 pounds. In fact, Circus Baby is actually closer to weighing 600 pounds than 500, weighing in at exactly 585 pounds total. So if you weren't afraid of her creepy clown-like appearance, you'll definitely be intimidated by her sheer size. Never mind scooping you, she could just kill you by falling on top of you. Number 8. Help Wanted. One of the few games where you can get your jump scare on with Circus Baby is the FNAF VR game Help Wanted. Circus Baby appears in the minigame known as Night Terrors, where the player is forced to hide from her in a closet. When Baby approaches you, you'll want to hold the closet door closed to prevent her from getting to you and jump scaring you. However, you're not alone in that closet. There are also plush babies, which will get restless and alternatively kill you if you keep the closet closed for too long. So it's a balance of timing as you try to avoid death from those plush versions of Baby that you share the closet with, and from Circus Baby herself.
Unit 7 Epilogue. Each Fazbear Fright story comes with an extra one thrown in there for good measure, like 3 normal stories and then the part of a bigger one that's expanding over all 7 books in the series. These epilogues are the stories, and yes, they explain everything about the Stitch Wraith, or at least some of it. It starts in Into the Pit and continues on to the other books. They don't necessarily go in order, but the gist of these stories so far is the creation of the Stitch Wraith and then its mission to gather body parts. As it does in To Be Beautiful, when Baby hacks apart a girl in order to steal her identity. We don't really know what it's planning yet, but we can assume it's nothing good, because it's FNAF.
Number 6. Ice Cream Dispenser. I love ice cream, which is why I find this feature so terrifying. Circus Baby's ice cream dispenser is how she ended up luring Elizabeth Afton to her death, offering the girl ice cream before devouring her. Ice cream is delicious and sweet, but instantly becomes more sinister when used in a plot to kidnap and potentially kill innocent children.
Halfway through at number 5, Friendly Fan. In the beginning, the crying child actually loved the Fazbear animatronics. His father made them, so of course he would. He would go there on a regular basis. He had plushies of the original 5, and his sister even had a Funtime Foxy. The crying child in reality loved everything his father created, until he witnessed the true nature of what his daddy done did. His father created a robot that was meant to trap children inside, which is probably why he told them to stay away from Baby, but Elizabeth didn't listen. And when she got close after crying child I'm sure warned her against it, she got grabbed, taken by a robot arm reaching out of Baby's stomach, pulling her inside and killing her. He saw all this happen before his very eyes, and what was once a love for the characters his father helped create quickly turned into hatred and fear for what his dad had made.
Number 4. Biddy Babs. Circus Baby isn't always alone, and though we don't get to interact with them quite as much or as intimately as Bellora's mini Renas, which climb inside an animatronic suit that you're wearing in the game, the fact remains that Circus Baby also comes with a group of creepy little minion animatronics, the Biddy Babs. Biddy Babs look like naked little baby dolls and also have face plates that can easily separate down the center, splitting in two to reveal the bare and creepy face of their endoskeleton beneath.
In at 3, Creation. The creation of the puppet is very straightforward. I've been saying it this whole video, really. Charlotte was brutally murdered outside of a Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, as we see in the FNAF 2 minigame of Take Cake, where Freddy is tasked with bringing cake to crying children, while we helplessly watch her get killed by none other than, you guessed it, Matthew Perry. Okay, not really, but that then takes us to the events of the security puppet minigame from FNAF 6, where we see the puppet head outside the back of the pizzeria and finds Charlotte's dead body, and then falls down next to her, allowing her to live on by possessing it, which potentially takes us to Midnight Motorist, which makes me think that the crying child saw Charlotte be killed by his father, since he was at the Fazbear restaurants, and the father, he got home. It was called later that night. I'm not certain, but it's just a theory. A theory for another video. You thought I was gonna say it.
Number 2. She knows you. I mean, while Circus Baby is Circus Baby, she is also Michael Afton's sister, Elizabeth. When you meet her in the game's sister location, while she doesn't show it at first, it is hinted at that she maybe knows you have some kind of ulterior motive for being there. She wonders what brings someone to a place like this, stating, "I'm curious, what events could lead a person to want to spend their nights in a place like this willingly? Maybe curiosity, maybe ignorance." While she's just speculating, it's interesting that she brings up your motivation for being there and acknowledges that it doesn't seem to be primarily because you simply needed a job. At least she doesn't believe that that's what it would be. Later on, if you follow the path to the fake ending in sister location during the survival night part of the game, which calls back to the style of play explored in the original titles, Circus Baby's voice will plead, "You must let us inside. Isn't this why you came here? To be with her again?" As though she knows that you are Michael and that you came there for Elizabeth's soul, implying there is something of Elizabeth inside her that indeed remembers you. Number 1. Saves your life. Wait a minute, but didn't you say in the last video, Amanda, that she wants to scoop you? Well, yes, Circus Baby does want to scoop you, which in theory should lead to your death, but not because she really bears any ill will towards you. As I stated in the last point, she recognizes you because Elizabeth is in there too. And do you think your little sister wants to kill you? Probably not. Circus Baby just wants out of Circus Baby Rental and Entertainment. In fact, when you, as Michael, get scooped and Ennard climbs inside you, it's likely the baby knows this won't actually kill you. And as we all, I'm sure, found surprising ourselves, knew that Michael Afton would somehow survive this whole process, even going to say, "You won't die." This is because Circus Baby knows the remnant will preserve Michael's soul and life force somehow, allowing him to live despite being somewhat rotted and emptied out, and even live after Ennard has both moved inside him and later has left his body.
In 10, The Missing Link. There have been so many additional mysteries that were added in the Fazbear Frights books, but they're all actually connected. And the reason we know that they're all connected is because of the Stitch Wraith. The Stitch Wraith is literally the link connecting a whole load of the stories together. And not just from the new books, but the original trilogy as well as the games can all be tied back to the Stitch Wraith. He was made with a battery from Fetch, his creator was looking for an Ella doll from To Be Beautiful that was made by Henry. He is the missing link in all the continuity of these stories, and whatever comes next I'm sure we'll learn more about him. I mean, there is a little bit of him in every body. Wait. And at 9, Agony Beyond Power of Speech. The stories of the Stitch Wraith actually help us to understand how animatronics get possessed on a better level. At first we just thought it was the normal way that possession works. Is there a normal way? Well, we just thought, you know, kid gets killed, kid gets put in the suit, and then kid possesses that suit because, yeah. But now, we know that they're actually possessed by agony. According to Phineas, the creator of the Stitch Wraith, agony is the most intense human emotion, and it reaches out further than any other emotion. And that it's used by the animatronics because, you know, they were killed as children in their favorite pizza joint by a golden Bonnie. So agony is a pretty reasonable feeling. The way we understand Remnant and how it works will help us understand more mysteries in the long run, and knowing about how Phineas was experimenting with human emotion just puts us one step closer to solving the entirety of FNAF. At least if Scott doesn't keep adding more mysteries. We know he will. Too much money. Making bank. Oh man, I wish I had something as profitable as this. And at 8, not Ennard. At first, based on the description of a white mask and such, we thought that the Stitch Wraith had to be Ennard. The combination of the Funtime animatronics as well as Baby and Ballora. But after seeing the creation in the epilogue of 1:35 AM, we now know indeed that it's not Ennard, even though it claims to look fairly similar. But this brings up an interesting idea. Why do they look so similar? I'm gonna move off the whole facts thing for a second and get into a little speculation. Why are the two characters so similar, at least when described? Perhaps Phineas knew about Ennard and got inspired by its appearance, or if the Stitch Wraith came first, I guess it could be that Ennard got inspiration from the Stitch Wraith? Or maybe rumors or stories William told? I don't know, okay? It calls for a lot of weird jumping, and it's very weird until we know more about the timeline of the games and the books and how they work together and, like, you know. It's weird, but it's not entered. There's your fact.
Number 7. Made to kidnap. When you think about what Circus Baby was likely designed for, she becomes one of the most insidious animatronics of the bunch, especially in comparison to what we know of her fellow sister location animatronics. On the outside, she appears sweet and fun, but inside, her program seems to be helping her to track children, looking for the best time to strike in either kidnapping or likely killing them. She's the perfect child murdering machine, counting children as they move about, waiting until one lone child breaks away from the group, and then swooping in to strike. When she tells her story in sister location, she remembers, "I would always count the children. I'm not sure why. I was always acutely aware of how many there were in the room with me. 2, then 3, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 2, then none. They usually played together in groups of 2 or 3. I was covered in glitter. I smelled like birthday cake. There were 2, then 3, then 5, then 4. There were 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. Something happened when there was 1. It really appears as though this is the purpose that Circus Baby was programmed for.
And at 6, key player. Like I said, each of the Fazbear Frights books has an epilogue chapter that tells a story about the Stitch Wraith. But what I didn't mention is the fact that the Stitch Wraith itself is actually a plot point in many of these stories. For example, in To Be Beautiful, Baby ends up cutting a girl into like chunks, or like something like that. She just dismembers like robotic body parts or something, you know, like limbs and stuff. And then those body parts are collected by the Stitch Wraith. In Fetch, the battery used to operate the Fetch dolls also gets used to power the Stitch Wraith. And the creator of the Stitch Wraith, Phineas, was looking for an Ella doll that appeared in the story about the girl who had a divorce and never got the family she wanted and eventually died in a vent. I don't remember the name of that one, but like, the Stitch Wraith is omnipresent in the Fazbear Frights books, similarly to how Thanos was in the MCU Infinity Saga, since he was behind the attack on New York in the first Avengers movie, and like he was like manipulating things from the background. It's like how the Stitch Wraith is manipulating situations to end in its favor. At least that's what it looks like to me. 1:35 a.m. That's the story. Yes, that's it. 1:35 a.m.
Halfway through at number 5, First. While no, Charlotte may not have been the first victim by William Afton, she was the first to possess any animatronic. This was shown to us in the security puppet minigame, where we see the puppet and Charlotte combined after she was brutally killed by Afton outside of a Fazbear joint. With what we now know about Remnant and Agony, how true possession only comes from intense pain and emotion in the form of agony, we can be damn well sure that she was in agonizing pain when she was killed. Not only was she, you know, murdered at the hands of her father's friend and business partner, but she was also stuck outside of her favorite place on Earth, somewhere that was literally designed to defend her. But the security puppet was blocked off by an unknown source, probably just a couple of bullies who wanted a girl out of their fun. So she was in agony, so much so that she was instantly able to possess an animatronic that was designed to defend her. So much that it sacrificed itself by crawling in the rain. It's like Henry coded himself into the security puppet. That's a theory for another day.
In it for appearance. The appearance of the Stitch Wraith was a point of confusion in the past, described as a mysterious figure in a black cloak with a white mask and features drawn on in black marker, one eye blacked out, a big toothy grin with blood around the mouth, who's staggering and limps while walking. That made everyone, or at least me, think of Ennard, who shows similar character traits, aside from the whole lives in a dark cloak thing, but to be fair, anyone can grab one, especially with the affordable prices of today's sponsor. I'm just kidding. Although Cloak did release FNAF merch, and they didn't call me, so I'm kind of insulted. I mean, like, I'm reppin', you know. Cloak, hit me up. But the creepy appearance has made him be compared to Ennard, which would just be interesting, but it would mean that, like, Ennard didn't create himself, and that he wasn't actually a combination of the sister location animatronics, and, like, it's not true. But this is because of, in at number 3, Unnamed. The crying child has never been given an official canon name. He isn't Michael, he isn't Chris, no official canon source has named him. He isn't named Chuck like he is in Step Closer, and he isn't named Stan. He has been given no canon name from any source, so if people are arguing with you about his name and saying that he has one, feel free to direct them to this video and say that no, he doesn't. Hi, all the people who are being told no, he doesn't. Because on no official wiki is he labeled as Chris Afton, always the crying child. So please, for the love of sweet baby Rays, stop saying that he does, okay? Don't call him Chris or Chuck or Stan or Dipper or Charles or hell, even Prince Clifford Tuckett III. No name has been associated with this character other than the crying child. He isn't the puppet, he could be Golden Freddy, and he isn't Michael. Well, he could be Michael, but that's a theory for another list. It's a long story. We don't know his name, and you're just gonna have to accept that. I'm sorry, but it's true. And a 2, potential identity. Now, we don't really know who the Stitch Wraith is. We don't know if we've seen the character already, but we can be pretty sure that we haven't. However, we can think about its potential identities for the Wraith. So, who could this be? Well, it could be the animatronic that kills Henry. I know, but Baby was the one who killed Henry. Things change. And this could be the one who does it in another universe, or at least the endoskeleton was used for the animatronic that killed Henry. At least in the books, this endoskeleton is described as being unfinished, unlike the scene from FNAF World where everyone thinks that it's Baby. This could be the way the Stitch Wraith gets tied back to the books, and this could be tied back to the games later on too. I mean, book number 5 is called Bunny Call, and it features a story about a man with gruesome burns all over his body, and an iron will to live. So, come on, I think we all know who that is. I always come back. Finally, in at number 1, mystery. The scariest thing about this character is just how mysterious he really is. We don't know what he wants. Sure, we know how he was created, but that's the only thing. We don't know about his motives, we don't know about his goals, we don't know why he's collecting body parts, we don't know what he's planning on doing. And the unknown is probably the scariest thing in existence. You're scared of heights. That's because you don't know what you'll feel while falling. You're scared of being alone in the dark? Well, that's because you don't know what's hiding in the shadows. You're scared of that man who seems to be following you because you don't know his motives or if he's really following you. The unknown is the root of all fears. Once you know something, it isn't as scary anymore. That's why they say face your fears to get over them, because once you understand it, you won't be as scared. You'll still potentially be scared, but you won't be as scared. But we know nothing about the Stitch Wraith, and that's why so far they're the scariest character of them all. In a 10, appearance. Crying Child, who we see in the FNAF 4 minigames, originally had no character name associated with him. At first, he was just the Crying Child that had a striped shirt and tears going down his face. This was actually the beginning of the speculation as to who these animatronics were possessed by. Originally, thanks to his appearance, we thought that the Crying Child was the puppet, since the puppet had a similar arm pattern to the child's shirt, and the streams of tears down his cheeks closely resemble that of the puppet's purple streaks. However, this was later proven to be false when we literally saw the puppet and Charlotte combined in FNAF 6. Well, we knew that it wasn't true beforehand, but it was finally confirmed in FNAF 6. The appearance of the Crying Child really threw us for a loop. This character has honestly been so problematic with the lore of the series. He's caused so many things to go awry. My god. In at 9, family. This kid has one messed up family, okay? Now I want to get one thing straight. The Crying Child is not Michael Afton. Originally we knew this, but then the security logbook made it seem like the Crying Child was Michael Afton, which confused us because how could he have gotten chomped but then still end up going to dismantle his father's enterprise? But that's not the case. Michael Afton is the Crying Child's brother, the one who wears the Foxy mask and scares him regularly. This kid is also the son of William Afton, mostly known as the Purple Guy, the man behind the slaughter, the main killer of the series. Springtrap, Scraptrap, Will Trap, Breaker of Chains, and father of deceased children. The Purple Guy is this kid's father, okay? And it's pretty messed up because, well, the kid found out, which sets up a whole load of other possibilities as to if the chomp was really an accident and stuff, but let's not get into that. And at 8, the Bite of 80, what? The FNAF games are amazing at setting up mystery and dividing the community on certain things. The identity of Springtrap is one of them. There is probably still people who are certain that Michael Afton is Springtrap thanks to the end cutscene of Sister Location. However, this isn't the case, okay? I'm gonna say this for it's not the final time. It's William, guys. But the other thing is that everyone was divided on the Bite. The Bite of 87 is the most famous date in FNAF lore. It was revealed in the first game as an incident that got someone's frontal lobe bitten off by an animatronic in 1987, which made all animatronics lose free roaming privileges during the day. What we see in the FNAF 4 minigames, however, does take place during 1983, as shown on the TV and in the 1983 Easter egg that has the cameras showing the FNAF 4 house in Sister Location. If you type in 1983, you get the FNAF 4 house. 1983 equals FNAF 4. The chomp, as I'm calling it, does indeed take place in 1983 instead of 1987, so there you go.
Number 7, appearance. The puppet has a very simple design. Black fabric covering the body aside from white stripes near the wrists and a mask. See, even dead children possessing animatronics will wear face masks, people. The mask is a simple yet freaky design. It has solid black empty eyes with purple streaks running down from them. They're like voids. with red cheeks like some damn demonic Pikachu, and then a mouth that makes me not want to know what that mouth do. Probably eat my damn face. This is one creepy animatronic, especially when presented in the right way, like when walking down the hallway in FNAF VR. Other than that, if it's just chilling in the music box, it's fine. Even if it's poking its little head out, like, it's still okay. Why is it that people like use nursery rhymes to make stuff scary? Like Pop Goes the Weasel, for example. Why do people use that to be scary? It's not alright because it works, okay? Children are already scary enough as it is. I almost got stabbed by one when I was working in an elementary school as a co-op student in high school. Yeah, they mentioned it as a hazard, but I thought it was a joke. Nope. One time, the teacher wasn't around and that little bugger just came running at me with scissors. Luckily, they were safety scissors because it's not like I would have put that kid on the ground, but honestly, I should have. Even if I really did want to. True story.
Because, in at number 6, death. The crying child does indeed die when getting chomped, as we see in the FNAF 4 final cutscene where Michael puts him in the mouth of Golden Freddy, even though the crying child is terrified of them. His tears moisten the spring locks, and then just like his father, he gets subjected to a spring lock failure. But crying child actually dies. He is rushed to the hospital, but death in the form of Nightmare gets him. We hear the sound of a flatline as he dies. As he dies, however, he meets the spirits of his old friends, the missing children, who say that they're still his friends and that while yes, he's broken because his father is a killer and that everything he loved ended up killing him, they will put him back together. While tragic, at least he got to spend the afterlife with the people he loved the most, who were taken from him too soon at the hands of his dastardly father. And his brother, Michael, will spend the rest of his life repenting for his sins and the accidental killing of his brother by dismantling his father's criminal empire. Oh wait, the Missing Children's incident was in 1985, wasn't it?
Number 5, can inflate balloons. A feature that Circus Baby has, which not all animatronics share, is that she has a built-in helium tank. The tank is connected to her fingertips, and as such she can use her fingers to inflate balloons, and even possibly is programmed to build crazy balloon animals and objects out of the balloons her fingers inflate. This doesn't sound scary at first. I mean, how can balloons be scary? But what if she used her fingers to inflate you until you popped like a balloon? Or, more realistically, asphyxiated from helium poisoning, as the helium replaced all the oxygen in your body, which is what would happen. You probably wouldn't pop like a balloon. Asphyxiation is said to be one of the worst ways to die, so if you keep all this in mind, her helium all of a sudden becomes a lot less fun and a lot more terrifying.
And 4, mistaken identity. This isn't uncommon with FNAF characters. We think we know who they are, but then they turn out to be someone else entirely. We thought that Golden Freddy was Cassidy, now it could be multiple souls. We thought that Michael was Springtrap, but he isn't. We thought he could be Scraptrap, but he isn't. We have mistaken so many characters for who they are, it's probably making Scott very happy. But we have not done that as much with any other character than we have with the Crying Child. The Crying Child has been thought to be the puppet Golden Freddy, currently one half of Golden Freddy, Michael Afton, and other various names given to him by the community, but we don't know if any of these are true. We know which ones aren't true, but we only think that the Crying Child is part of Golden Freddy. It could be, since he tells Michael it's me, but we know that Michael looks a lot like his father, so maybe it's Cassidy saying it's me, the one you should not have killed, to someone that she thinks is William. There are so many variables and there isn't enough information to really make a good guess, but we're still trying. Don't get me wrong, I believe that he is a part of Golden Freddy, but I'm just saying that we don't know for certain. But what we do know for certain is that, in at 3, his origins. The origin of the Stitch Wraith is outlined fairly simply in the 3rd Fazbear Frights book 135 AM. At least I think it's that one. No matter, we get to learn the whole origin of the Stitch Wraith, proving to us that this character is new and not someone we've seen before, like Ennard. Using the battery for Fetch and the agony from L, Dr. Phineas Taggart was experimenting with human emotion, saying that it emanates from us and soaks into our surroundings, claiming that agony is the most powerful and reaches out the furthest from us. And that agony is what really haunts objects in animatronics. The FNAF 1 or 2 era endoskeleton was found by Phineas and infused with the agony from the Ella doll. Then he puts a head on it from a 3-foot tall doll, which if you're looking for a visual, think like Blank from Five Nights at Candy's. He adds a battery pack and turns it on. As he does, he gets killed instantly, potentially by accident, but nevertheless it happens, and then the Stitch Wraith leaves under a black cloak. It's creepy, it's haunting, and it's extremely interesting, so I look forward to learning more. There's like 3 more books coming out or something like that? 3 or 4? ish. Penultimately, in at number 2, Scarred. The crying child has clearly been scarred by the things he's seen. He may not have witnessed the missing children's incident since it does take place in 1985, but there is clearly some mental trauma that he has dealt with. The nightmare animatronics that are usually viewed as being seen by the crying child have mouths for their stomachs, clearly showing the location of the animatronic arm that Baby used to scoop Elizabeth up. The child became so fearful of these restaurants that he began to collapse and fall to the ground crying whenever he came close to one of the animatronics, even if it was just a man in a suit. The way we've seen this child evolve is clearly showing us his mental trauma and scarring that has happened over such a short amount of time too. At least he got a break from it all, you know, in death, when the friends he once had can put him back together. Finally, in at number 1, Legacy. This kid, while he may be fictional and, you know, dead, still has a whole legacy in the FNAF universe as well as our own. This kid is the reason the FNAF franchise exists, and while yes, he wasn't the first to die, he still was the reason for Michael starting to go around and trying to set the souls free, thus leading to FNAF 1. So while he may not have been the reason for FNAF 1 when it was released, he sure is the reason for it now. This kid has dealt with so much trauma, with having a father as a serial killer, seeing him kill a kid and stuff him, probably being friends with the original missing children, and then getting killed at the hands of Fredbear by your brother after your crying moistened the locks and made him chomp down on your head, then having hallucinations in the hospital that nightmare versions of the animatronics you once loved are coming after you. Jeez. It's pretty sad when you think about it. Poor kid.
In at 10, not first. Apparently, unlike everyone from the YouTube comments, the puppet was indeed not the first. Well, first victim of William Afton. That ends up being Chica, as told to us by Chica in Ultimate Custom Night, saying, "I was first, I have seen everything." Which is pretty weird if you think about it. Like, why is Susie the first one to die? Like, why can't it be Charlotte or Cassidy? Like, why must it be that every time we think we have something right about the series that's locked in and it's established in the community, Scott ends up just throwing it down the drain? It happens with the puppet and it happens with the identity of Michael Afton every other week. So, I don't know why. Every time we think we know something, unless it's been directly confirmed, it gets thrown out the window. Well, unlike our first assumptions that the puppet wasn't first, but still. In at 9, Give Life. From the FNAF 2 minigame Give Gifts, Give Life, we can tell that while not being the first, the puppet was the one who brought the other animatronics to life in the suits. We see as the children lay down on the ground, the puppet gives them gifts to cheer them up, because, you know, being dead will put a bummer on things. But when that doesn't work, I guess the puppet's like, oh damn, they must be dead-o, and brings them to life in the animatronic suits, which is interesting from a lore standpoint now with what we know about Remnant, since, you know, they don't possess animatronics on their own. Were they in enough pain before they died? That sounds really bad, but like, did they not suffer enough? Should they have experienced more pain? Ah, man, what the FNAF series will do to literally any pure soul. Not that my soul was pure. Hell no, I don't have a soul. And I enjoy killing Wraith in Skyrim too much for that, especially in VR. I'm still on that. VR killing simulator. In at 8, Behind the Mask. You want to know who's behind the mask? Do you really want to know? You already know, people. Come on, I literally said it in number 10. It's Charlotte. Well, I mentioned Charlotte, but it's not like you didn't know that. It's not like this channel introduced you to the FNAF series. You're all here because MatPat isn't uploading any new theory videos. Well, except for that one he just uploaded. Well, either way, the one hidden behind the puppet mask is Charlotte, Henry's daughter, as revealed by the original FNAF novel trilogy. We technically don't know her official name in the game since her grave was blurred out in the gravestone ending of FNAF 6, but nevertheless, it's still Henry's daughter, as told to us by Henry himself during his final monologue in the real FNAF 6 ending, because we know this is Henry speaking, not only because he calls the puppet his daughter, but also because in the Insanity ending we can hear an audio file play, and the monitor on your computer has the file labeled as HRY223, HRY Henry. So, yes, Charlotte or Charlie is the puppet, even in the games. Chill up.
And at 7, ASTROBOY. When we thought the crying child was indeed Michael Afton, we had to find some reason for how this could be possible. So in typical theory fashion, we turned to other media. The media we turned to in this case was the original FNAF book trilogy, which ended with the 4th closet, which kept making me think that there were 4 books in that series, but that's aside the point. In the book, we learn that Henry built his daughter into 4 different robots. That's what the title means, 4th closet. Implanting memories in each of them so that she could grow up even after death. So after hearing that there were hyper-realistic robots that were so realistic they can turn other characters on, it felt free to assume that the same thing happened to Michael. That after getting chomped, Henry was so stricken with grief after losing 2 kids that he rebuilt him as a robot, and that robot went on to get scooped and you know everything else. But this isn't true.
And at 6, key player. When we talk about FNAF, you usually think about the core 4 animatronics, the ones who have had multiple versions of themselves and have appeared in basically every game, aside from Chica and Sister location. Yes, Scott was a little too tired of the fan art, but rules are rules, Scott, especially internet rules. However, even though she got introduced in the second game, the puppet has been presented in at least 6 out of the 8 FNAF games, appearing in FNAF 2, FNAF 3, FNAF 4's Nightmare On, FNAF 6 in the Security Puppet minigame, Ultimate Custom Night, FNAF VR Help Wanted, and FNAF 1 in the form of posters that can sometimes appear on the wall. The puppet has been, dare I say, puppeteering the FNAF series from the background, even before being a canon character in the series. Puns.
Halfway through at number 5, Born This Way. My mama told me when I was young, don't kill your creator. Well, obviously the Stitch Wraith never got that lesson, probably because he didn't have the time. After being created, the Stitch Wraith immediately decides to off Phineas, which makes me think of this as potentially a symbol for Henry. We know that Henry died via an animatronic thanks to FNAF World, but the similarities between the two stories are strong, and while yes, we don't know much about this creature's origins, it could be a hint to what's coming next. People say that nobody is born evil, but they've obviously never heard of a bloodthirsty murder bot who instantly kills their creator. Or an antichrist. Hi.
And at 4, Lefty. The Lefty animatronic is actually an acronym. LEFTE stands for Lure, Encapsulate, Fuse, Transport, and Extract. So, before you go off in the comments saying that we spelt it wrong, technically we didn't. It's just more commonly written with a Y. This version of Freddy, which it is, don't come for me saying that it's not a Freddy, okay? Any bear with a Freddy characteristics is a Freddy animatronic, especially in this series. Anyway, this bear was specially designed by Henry to emit the bracelet code that corresponds to the one Charlotte was wearing, as we see in the Security Puppet minigame, the green one. Then use that bracelet to lure the puppet Charlotte, to capture her, bring her to the pizzeria from Pizzeria Simulator, and then free her soul. This line is such a good example of context and delivery. The way I put that is nice. He wanted to free his daughter's soul. But if I was to say something like capture her and then bring her to the pizzeria so that she could burn with the rest, which is still true, that sounds a lot more sinister. Just goes to show that you need more than one perspective on everything.
Number 3, Realistic Baby. On part 1 of this list, I talked a bit about Circus Baby's design. Have you noticed the pins that always seem to be sticking out of her? They're like clothing pins you'd see on a mannequin to help hold cloth in place when measuring out and creating or altering clothing. For Baby, however, these pins not only look creepy, but also serve a purpose. They are kinda like compression pins for her, which allow Baby to alter her appearance, changing her shape somewhat and allowing her to appear more like a real human being. Perhaps this is how she originally tried to leave the Circus Baby entertainment and rental facility, but due to her still being an animatronic inside, some kind of detector discovered that it was her, either preventing her from leaving and foiling her escape attempt, or tracking her down and bringing her back. After all, this seems like a better way to disguise yourself than as a giant endoskeleton of an animatronic inside a flesh suit, which I feel like wouldn't look quite the same as a human being, but
And at 2, fan versions. While the normal puppet animatronic may not be scary per se, the fan-made versions of the character are. Take for example the Reaper puppet from Final Nights 3 and 4, the scrapped withered puppet that was showcased by Amanda in the Top 10 Scary FNAF Fan Animatronics Part 2, or literally any other animatronic puppet that was ever created. I don't know how people are so easily able to make this damn thing so scary. I usually don't include fan-made versions as a number on these facts lists, but for some reason so many people want to make terrifying versions of the puppet. What about the Havoc puppet from Dermitibus? Have you seen that thing? It's like the spiders in Australia got their hands on the illicit substances that bodybuilders use. If you're mad about the weird phrasing, blame YouTube, not me. Can't say anything anymore without being demonetized. Damn, this puppet got me ranting about YouTube. That means you know it did something. Finally, in number 1, family ties. The puppet is one of the few dead children to have a connection to someone important in the series, the others being members of the Afton family. The puppet, on the other hand, is a member of the Emily family. Well, at least according to the book, their last name is Emily, but who cares at this point? Out of everything we want answered, you decide to give us that, Scott? We legit have a list about top 10 FNAF unanswered questions, by the way. You should go check that out. Click in the top right corner. However, Charlotte has more of a connection than anybody else. I mean, she is Henry's daughter, the mastermind behind the animatronics of the Freddy's restaurants, and she was killed by William Afton, the business partner to her father. She was probably also friends with his kids since their parents were together so much, and she went on to become the first possessed animatronic, bringing to life all those that that came after, either directly or by proxy.